Happy Friday, everyone. We got a doozy for you. It's short, it's sweet, but it's a good time. It is a little open variation for you guys today to have some fun with. But before we get to that, let's talk about what we got going on. Dynamic triangle, 3 to 5 aside. Sumo Squat Hold for 10 to 20 seconds. Goblet Squat, 3 to 7 at a 3:03 tempo. Narrow Squat Hold for 10 to 20 seconds. And then a Deadbug for 6 to 10 alternating reps. Nice and slow. 2 to 3 rounds there. Take it down just to feel the body after yesterday's kind of experience. That was a tough little work set yesterday, but nice and steady. So hopefully you're feeling pretty good after that lower intensity yesterday. After that, we're going to work on some skill, breaking down the clean and jerk or clean and press. We're going to work on the dumbbell deadlift for 3, dumbbell hang power clean for 3, dumbbell push press for 3, and then 3 dumbbell overhead pause dips. We're going to work on that for mobility and stability purposes. Plank walkout for 20 seconds. After that, just to kind of wake up the overhead and the core a little bit more as well. 3 to 5 rounds. If you have a single dumbbell, you can do this any way you want. You can either do all that whole complex up one side, then the other, or 3-3. If you have 2 dumbbells, well, you just take it down as is, and you'll take it down and just work on waking up those skills. Our work set today is 7 minutes, so it's short, it's sweet, but we want to make sure that we are ready to go. All right. So what you're going to do is dumbbell clean and jerk or clean and press, whatever you're more comfortable with going overhead with, for 3 reps, V-up or V-up option for 3. And you are going to do an ascending ladder by 3s. So you're going to add 3 reps every single round. So 3, 6, 9, 12. So if your math brains tend to disappear during the workout, just write out on a piece of paper or a board all those numbers which you hope to get up to. Be optimistic, overly optimistic, so you have more numbers in the tank than where you're going to get to, so you can just kind of cross them off and not run out. But as you go, cross them out, so you don't have to think too much. You can just be, oh yeah, 6, okay, oh, 9, all right, see where it takes you. So it's a good time. This workout's really tough, but it's challenging, but fun, all right? Let's get you warmed up, ready for action, and lead you into the weekend. All right, guys, let's get you warmed up and ready for action. Let's get those feet under the hips. We'll take the arms big and tall up overhead. We're going to reach over to one side. We're going to come back up and over and reach to the other side. Take it up overhead. We're going to shrug. And then come back down with those arms and take it all the way to the floor. Touching those toes. We're going to walk up the shins. We'll flow down, framing the foot. We'll step back into our lizard. Then we're going to take that inside hand all the way up. We're just going to work some rotation here. So rotating forearm to the floor. We'll come back up, big stretch, and rotate, forearm to the floor. Come back up, big stretch, and one more time, rotate, forearm to the floor, and big stretch. Plant the hand, take the outside hand up, big stretch, plant it, step it back into that down dog, reaching those hips, we'll walk the heels out a couple times, just nice and easy, just waking up those feet. And we'll come back to center, extend into our plank, step the other foot up. Again, in that square body position, we'll take that inside hand all the way up, and then we'll rotate. Forearm to the floor. We'll come back up, rotate, forearm to the floor, come back up, and rotate, forearm to the floor. Take it all the way back up. Plant the hand. Outside hand's going to reach up to the sky. Plant that hand down, we'll step it back into the down dog, reaching those hips, we'll walk those heels out, nice and steady, nice and slow, and we'll come back into our plank, tiptoeing those feet up, and then we'll roll ourselves all the way up, big stretch, big reach to one side, reach to the other side, oh, come down with those hands. Get you ready to go. If you would like to do a little bit of more upper body, lower body stuff, please pause the video, take that down. Again, some more lizard lunge maybe with the hip and split, rotation, cat-cow, thread the needle, any of that stuff. Pause it, take it down, and get yourself ready to go. I'm going to go through this first phase of warm-up, getting that body and those squats getting going. So let's get her going and get ready. Our opening sequence of our warm-up today is going to kickstart off with our dynamic triangle. And again, if you'd like to, moving through these rounds, you can actually load this a little bit in the overhead position to kind of build some more shoulder strength. and some more awareness of that overhead position. So be my guest if you like, but keep the loading light. We're gonna get our feet to our sumo stance. We're gonna turn a toe, turn the other toe on the angle, so my hips are kind of open to the angle position. My hand is gonna come to the thigh, and I'm gonna reach up to the sky. I'm gonna pull the hip back into that nice dynamic triangle, standing tall with that arm overhead, and then nice and solid. So regardless of how much load or any load you have up here, we always want to think about that arm being reaching and actively pressed to the ceiling. So it's always pushing up, regardless of the orientation of the torso. So that hinge doesn't change that overhead position for the dumbbell. Just like a Turkish get-up when we're working on those things. That arm is always reaching to the sky. Now as we change our feet over, we want to make sure that our feet are wide enough so that we don't get trapped in too narrow of a stance and get blocked up. So just make sure your feet are where they need to be for you, even if that first rep kind of like, ooh, okay, gotta fix that, adjust as you go. Make sure you're good to go with those feet. Our next exercise on the list is a Sumo Squat Hold. So we're gonna stay in that same position for our feet, except our toes are gonna come back to center and just go slightly out. I'm gonna focus my attention on pushing my knees out just a little bit more than I would if I was doing an air squat. So I wanna make sure that the knees stay tracking the toes and not collapsing inwards. So if we find that regardless of how hard we push our knees out, our knees are still collapsing inwards, bring your feet a little narrower and just adjust your stance. The big thing though with this squat hold, we wanna make sure that my hips are going towards my heels and I'm fighting for that upper torso, making sure everything stays nice and strong and solid. When I rise out of the hold, shoulders and hips rise together and making sure that we're staying engaged. Goblet squat is our next phase, or air squat. So if you're not quite ready to play around with the loading in the warm-up just yet, just do some air squat, tempo air squats, and that'll start getting you ready. And if you want to slowly increase and add in some load for the goblet squat, please be my guest. We've been using the goblet squat quite a bit in warm-ups this week so that we can focus on that upright torso and work on getting deeper in that squat. So our feet are going to come into our normal squat stance, so inside that sumo stance. The dumbbell is going to be held underneath if you're doing the goblet squat. I'm going to press into the dumbbell a little bit just to give myself a little bit more engagement through the upper body. I'm going to take my hips to my heels, maintaining that strong torso position, and my knees again track the toes. With these squats, I really do want to focus on my feet a little bit more. So I want to think about that flat foot contact. The weight is mid-foot, but the big toes are staying down on the floor. Our weight is a little bit back, but our big toes are in contact with the ground. And that's going to give us a really good balanced squat. After that, we're going to bring our feet in from our regular squat to a narrow stance, and that can be anything inside my normal squat stance. So again, we talked about this a little while ago, and that can change time of day, time of week, depends on what you've been doing. So just keep in mind that that narrow stance squat can adjust and change to how your body's feeling. So getting those feet in that narrow stance, we're again going to work on that squat hold. So I'm going to squeeze, get set, maintaining good tension through my upper body. I'm going to take it to the depth I feel comfortable, holding that position. And for me, when I hold that, I can feel a strong sensation through my calves and through my ankle, because I have relatively tight ankles. So I want to make sure that I'm kind of allowing my body, I'm listening to my body, where those tension spots are, and I'm kind of giving into those so that they can open up and release a little bit. Not trying to push beyond, because if I try and push beyond, I'm going to start to lose position. So I'm always listening to the body, work to that edge, and that edge is slowly going to get bigger and bigger as you go. After our narrow squat, we're going to lay on the floor. We're going to work a little bit of core work. So we're going to get ourselves set up, just like we're going to do a bridge. So first things first, I'm going to engage my core, so I'm going to pull my ribs and hips together, which is going to close the distance between my low back and the floor. Then I'm going to bring my feet up, so my knees are at a 90 degree and my feet are at a 90 degree. My hands are going to come straight up, keeping the low back in contact with the floor. I'm going to extend and reach my right arm and my left leg as far as I feel comfortable, keeping that low back in contact with the floor, and then come back in. And then I'll switch, really focusing on that low back contact and moving at a pace that I can allow that low back to stay solid. So I only want you to go as far as you can maintain. So another one, if you were following that core challenge we were doing, we had a lot of people playing around with touching the toe down. So just working on a little bit of range and slowly starting to build that range as we got a little stronger in that position. So you can experiment with whatever you want. We just want to make sure that we're isolating one side, all right? And keeping that low back in contact with the floor in that nice little hollow. 2 to 3 rounds of that. Just a quick little recap. We have our dynamic triangle for 3 to 5 a side. If you'd like to lightly load that, you're more than welcome to. Sumo Squat Hold for 10 to 20 seconds. Goblet Squat for 3 to 7 at a 303 tempo. Narrow Squat Hold, 10 to 20 seconds. And then a Deadbug for 6 to 10 alternating reps. Really taking your time in the Deadbug to kind of balance out the hips and the shoulders and work on that core engagement. 2 to 3 rounds. We're going to take that down, pause the video, give yourself that nice little once over, because now we're going to move into a little bit of dumbbell skill work to get us ready for our workout. All right, so now what we got going on, we're going to work on some dumbbell skill work. So we have 3 deadlifts that moves into the hang power clean. You can play around with the deadlift being a conventional style like we did the other day, or you can work on that the sumo deadlift, depending on what you're looking for. So what we have for you, I'm going to stand on either side of that dumbbell for my sumo. My first one is going to be a sumo deadlift because it's a lot easier to get down to that full range so I can get the dumbbell up safely. So I'm going to stand right over top of the dumbbell, but from here, what I want to think about is my hips going slightly back as I get that good hinge, and then I'm going to take it down to the floor. My hips are going to drop a little bit more than normal. My chest is going to be up a little bit more because I have to go down in this extended range. We want to make sure we're not rounding out and kind of in that not so good position. From here, we're going to stand tall and start the process all over again. So with the sumo, the dumbbell stays in between my feet. I take the dumbbell to wherever I feel comfortable, the floor or mid-shin somewhere, and then stand fully. If I would like to work on my conventional, my feet are going to come in a little bit more. My hand will be to the side. I'm going to do the same hinge, except it might be a little bit more challenging to get down to that lower position just because of the positioning of our feet. So keep that in mind. Focus on our back position, not necessarily touching the dumbbell or getting super deep. Back position takes precedence over everything. From there, we're going to work on our hang power clean. So our hang power clean is going to come from the top position, and it's going to be taken from above the knee. From here, I'm going to drive through my legs, opening my hips and legs, letting those legs do the work. I'm going to pull into that power position. So I take it to the knee, nice and controlled, push through the legs, land in that power squat, get myself set, bring the dumbbell down. So I get that good hinge, just like my deadlift, and then I take that dumbbell up, stand tall, bring the dumbbell back down. Get that nice position, drive through the legs, up, and stand tall. After that nice power clean, my feet are going to come just outside the hips or under the hips. The dumbbell is going to stay in my front rack. My elbow will be pressing a little bit into the dumbbell. And I'm going to work on my push press. My push press, I'm going to get that good vertical dip, shoulder over the hip. I'm going to drive and let those legs and hips do most of the work. So I'm staying centered in my foot. I dip, drive up, hold overhead, come back down. Set, dip, drive, legs and hips, get that dumbbell going. As I drive up, I want to make sure I'm in a good overhead position. So my ribs are in, I'm pressing the dumbbell up to the sky, and in a perfect world, I can see your ear on the side of your arm. It might be even, but in a perfect world, we want to eventually slowly try and get that arm slightly behind here so it's sitting right over top of my midline. Coming back down. So I'm going to do one more. I'm going to hold overhead. So I dip. Once I've done my third one, I'm going to squeeze, I'm going to set, and then I'm going to keep that arm right where it is and go into that same dip I used for my push press. And then I'm going to stand. This is an extremely challenging position, working on keeping the glutes tight, the ribs in, the arm in the exact same place as I dip, because that is our receiving position for the jerk. So we're going to use this pause dip as a chance to open up and build some comfort there. So very challenging position if we have tight ankles or tight shoulders, because the dumbbell's going to want to come forward. So I need you guys really to pay attention to the depth of your dip. I don't necessarily want you to worry if it's not the same as your push press dip. I want you to take it down as deep as you can maintain the overhead position. This is priority in this nice little dip position that we're working on. You may find that you can dip a little freer or deeper with the push press when the dumbbell's in the front rack, and that's totally normal, right? It's pretty tough once we get that arm in that overhead position. So moving forward, if you're comfortable in the jerk, we build off of that push press, dip and drive, and then we receive in that bottom position. So I'm going to show you a couple jerks because we're going to use it in the later scene, and if you're going to use the jerk, I'd like you to slowly incorporate the jerk into your warm-up as well. So the jerk, we get set up the same way for the push press. Dumbbells on the shoulder, my feet are in that good, solid hip width or just outside hip. I'm going to get the same dip, the same drive. The only difference is I'm going to push myself down under the dumbbell. So it's going to look like so. I dip, stand tall, bring the dumbbell back down. And that's very important that we stand tall with the dumbbell overhead. So again, dip, land in that little receiving position, stand. Now I've officially finished the lift, I can bring the dumbbell back down. So we want to make sure that we present the weight, opposed to jerk, bring it back down. So sometimes speed can cause that to happen, so we have to make sure that we listen and finish the lift and listen to our body and not rush too much. After our pause dips, we're going to move into a plank walkout. So the plank walkout's here just to kind of fire up the core and continue heating up that shoulder and overhead position for some activation. So I'm going to get into my plank position. You have 20 seconds to do what you can in this. So we're not looking for reps necessarily, but just 20 seconds of practice. I establish my good plank position, and then I'm going to walk my hands out, continuing to maintain that hollow as I walk into that nice hollow position. Then I'm going to walk myself back into my plank, set, and then do it again. So I'm only going to walk myself out as far as I can maintain that good overhead position in that hollow, in that nice little rainbow kind of position. The plank of rainbows, it's a beautiful thing, all right? But we only want to go as far as we're comfortable and as far as we can maintain position, because we also need to come back. So we don't want to walk out so far that we slide it. Okay? If you're not comfortable going from the toes, you can also take that from the knees. So I'm going to get set up and establish my plank position through my core, drop my knees, and then I'll do the same walkout, and it'll allow me to experience that slightly stronger position and that longer walkout than if I was on my toes. So play around with that a little bit. See where you're more comfortable and what you can build from in that knee walkout, because it's going to build that good control and that ability to maintain that shoulder position. As a quick recap for you guys, we have our dumbbell deadlift for 3, dumbbell hang power clean for 3, dumbbell push press for 3, followed up with a dumbbell overhead pause dip. As you start getting into the warm-up a little bit more, I'd like to see you, if you are going to use the jerk in the workout, to incorporate the jerk into that. Maybe dissolve the push press and the pause dip and just turn that into a jerk. So you can practice those two individual pieces and then meld them together to create the jerk closer to the workout. After that, we're going to go on the floor, work our plank walkout for 20 seconds. Don't necessarily worry about max reps, just worry about a couple really good reps, walkouts, walk-ins, maintaining that good position and just hitting that well for practice. 3 to 5 rounds, take that down nice and strong, and then we're going to come into that work set. We're going to talk about what's to come. The workout is here, you guys. We have 7 minutes, solid AMRAP, ascending ladder by 3s. So the first movement is our clean and jerk or clean and press. So we're going to meld that entire dumbbell complex together to create our one movement. So I'm going to stand this dumbbell up, and I'm going to stand profile to the camera so you guys can see my profile. I'm going to take the dumbbell somewhere below the knee to where I was comfortable with my deadlift. Then from here, I'm going to drive through those legs, power clean, stand tall, push press. Or I'm going to take it down below the knee somewhere where I can maintain back position, power clean, stand, jerk, or this is the hybrid of the two. I'm going to pull back to below the knee. I'm going to power clean right into my press, or right into my jerk. So you can play with that depending on your comfort level with the clean and jerk with the dumbbell. You can kind of experiment with whatever you want. If you're like, whoa, whoa, Dave, whoa. The joining of the two movements is enough, clean plus jerk or clean and press. I'm more comfortable cleaning it up, standing, setting, push pressing or jerking. Rock it, all right, that's okay. All right, if you're like, I'm getting a little bit better with that, I kind of want to play around with that hybrid movement where I move right into the press from the power clean. Awesome, play around, even mix and match the two. You may find that you can start off with that hybrid version in the beginning, and then as you get more fatigued, you have to clean it, set, and then drive it overhead. And that's okay. Whatever gets that dumbbell overhead safely and effectively for you in the best position, I want you to experience with this movement set. And like I say, that can change throughout the work set. Once you've done your 3 clean and jerks, we're going to move on to the floor and we're going to work the V-up. So as always, we have quite a few options for your V-up, and I just want you to choose the one and or vary between throughout these workouts. So don't just get stuck with the same variation, but experiment with some different ones. Keep the same one for the whole workout, but there's nothing wrong with saying, today's work I'm going to do the Pike Sit Up. Oh, last time I did the laying toe touch. So mix and match these things so you can kind of get a nice, well-rounded toolbox of core work, okay? So our first option is our double leg, double arm V-up. I take my arms above, I'm going to snap up, touch, come back down. Working on meeting my body in the middle, so turning myself into a little V sandwich. If you're like, yeah, 2 legs is a little tough for me right now, you can work on the single, back to the fourth, or you can work on the tuck. You can also do that with the single per side. Now, if that's a lot of hinging, too much hinging, but you still want to work on that nice hollow position, we can work on our hollow up. So we get nice and long, we pull the ribs and hips in, we get that good little lift, and then down. So it's a very subtle lift into that hollow. You can do a single leg, alternating, and you can work on that nice little pulse, that engagement. Burns really well, hits that core really solidly. Now, if we want to focus on our upper body portion, we can bring our legs up into that L, my hands reaching towards my shoelaces, and I pull my ribs and hips in nice and tight, and then lower down. And I work on that nice laying toe touch. Now these are a little slower, and that's okay, but we want to make sure that if that's what we want to focus on, we're okay with moving a little slower in our AMRAP, because we want to stay true to that movement. The other exercise that kind of focuses more so on the upper body specific is that Pike Sit Up. So those toes coming together, legs as straight as we can get them. We're going to sit up, reaching for as far down the thighs as we can, and that may change throughout the workout. Earlier on, you might only get to your knees, your shins. By the end, your hamstrings might be a little bit looser and you can reach to your toes. Gradually build and open up that range of motion as your body says, yeah, I'm good to go with that. I'm a little bit more open, all right? So let that happen organically as the workout continues to progress. Now, with this workout, it's tough, it's quick, 7 minutes, so you want to try and keep moving steady as you go through. So you have 3 dumbbell clean and jerks or press, 3 V-ups or that V-up option, and then you're going to add 3 reps each round. Good luck with this one, you guys. It's a burner, it's a fun time, so I hope you guys enjoy and have fun. As always, you guys, work for quality with those movements, have a ton of fun, and let me know how this one went because it's a fan favorite of mine personally. See you later, you guys. We're coming at you tomorrow with the birthday to kickstart off the Saturday and the weekend.